All right, this is Audio Heads from Geeks Assembled. We are here, a bunch of geeks assembled to discuss Doctor Who and the Invention of Death. And it's got David Bradley, Jamie Glover, Gemma Powell, and Claudia Grant as Susan Foreman. And Susan Foreman is perfect, no matter what. Anyway. Okay, so my friends, I'd like to get your opening thoughts on this thing. I think it's rather timely. So let's begin with Texas Tim. What's your opening thoughts on Invention of Death?
I thought it was excellent. It was very, very 60s sci-fi kind of feel, didn't it? And it was cool how there's really no villain in the story. It's nice how, like, there's there to be a sort of mystery about, by episode 2, you're involved in some sort of mystery. Somebody's been murdered maybe, or somebody died mysteriously. And it keeps going with that until you get to the end of episode 3 when Ian falls out the window. But it's a very unique story. It's very cool. It's I don't know. I thought it had a lot of twists, a lot of different things that your average run-of-the-mill Doctor Who story doesn't do. I thought it was pretty well designed, well set up. I mean, I thought it was an interesting tale. I mean, it kept me interested for the whole 2 hours. So I also liked how it ended too, where it sets up the next story, like I used to do on the TV show in those days. So I mean, that's pretty cool. And I think this cast is really good. I mean, they really do a sort of pastiche of the first Doctor is what they are. They're not trying to be exactly like those original cast members, but I mean, they do a pretty good job of emulating them and bringing them to life. So I enjoy it very much.
Cool. And Beef Dad, what's your opening thoughts, man?
I think it was an excellent story, very well written, and mostly very well acted. I
wrote it.
Must confess that Gemma Powell playing Barbara Wright really went for me. So she was excellent. Claudia Grant was good as Susan. David Bradley is the first Doctor. Well, yeah, a lot of the time he's actually sounded like the first Doctor. Unfortunately, there were moments where he sounded like Argus Filch from
Harry Potter.
So it wasn't completely there for me. But the story was very, very good. The script was excellent. And the bitch Charlene was absolutely superb character, I thought. Yeah, it was very, very clever.
Lee, what's your opening thoughts, man?
Well, there's a running theme with these First Doctor Adventure box sets is there's 2 stories, and one's usually a historical, and one's a science fiction futuristic. This is the science fiction one. Like in the old days in the TV series, that's what they used to do. They used to alternate a historical with a science fiction one, and all like that. And I agree with what Beef Dad said. Acting, brilliant, written well.
Who wrote it?
John Doney.
Oh, yeah.
But you're never going to get exactly the sound-alikes of the actors what have gone before them. Yeah, as Tim said, it's a pastiche. They're trying to emulate the 60s feel, and it works. But you're not going to get Bradley doing a top-notch Hartnell. You're going to get Bradley doing his version, which I don't mind. I mean, he has got better since the first box set, and as the box sets go along, he gets more into the role. Yeah, it's for me, the story, it sort of dragged for me to begin with. I mean, this is a 4-parter, and I think the first death was at the end of part 2, I think it was.
Yeah.
So, so really, for the first 2 episodes, it was just, talk and trying to save Barbara because of the spear. But yeah, it's an enjoyable tale of of this race. What they've never seen any other people, and they didn't know what death was or fear was. So yeah, it's a good idea. But for me, it sort of dragged for the first couple, but then it sort of picked up come episode 3. So, but that's my opening thoughts anyway.
Cool. And so, since Susan left, we'll go to Jake, please.
Well, right from the back, this is one of John Dorney's best scripts. It really has that 60s feel. It reminded me a little bit of The Ark, when Dodo spreads all her virus around and starts killing everyone that had to deal with it. And like Susan said earlier, very fitting to what's going on at the moment. Everyone's panicking, they don't know what's going on, all these people are dying. And with cast, I agree with what Beef Dad said. Gemma Powell as Barbara is probably the best out of the recast people. The only one that I really seem to struggle with is Claudia Grant as Susan. I don't know why, but something is the way she portrays Susan, her voice doesn't click with me. I don't know why. Some of her scenes really throw me out of it. Like the way she says grandfather and stuff like that. Because you have that thing in your head that you know what these characters sound like, that when someone else does it, you're automatically picking out things that's wrong with it. And Susan's the only one that I'm really struggling with, recast-wise. But yeah, I enjoy, like what Lee was saying, this has probably been the better First Doctor story, like recast-wise. They're really getting into their roles, like he said. They actually seem like who they're meant to be. Even though I absolutely adored the Desolation Wars or whatever it was called, I still think they're more stronger in their acting in this episode. And that's my initial thoughts of The Invention of Death.
Cool. And Susan, what's your opening thoughts on Invention of Death?
Right. Well, kind of a conglomeration of some what other people said. Tim, had it right on. It definitely has a 60s sci-fi feel. And Lee, I agreed. It dragged for me in lots of places. The pacing overall for me was a little slow. It was kind of hard for me to get through. I think, to be honest, I would have enjoyed this more seeing it in a live action. Some stories, it doesn't matter whether or not you're listening to it on an audio or if you're watching it. But this one, I missed the visual. I wish I hadn't, but I did. But I mean, definitely was worth listening to. Is it the best of all the box sets I've listened to? Not by a long shot. I wouldn't choose to re-listen to this particularly, but I'm glad I heard it the first time, and that's pretty much my opening thoughts.
Cool. Well, I love it when science fiction goes to planets with blue people, and these were blue transparent people. And
I want to see the blue transparent people.
Well, there's one right there, right over my shoulder. That's a blue transparent person, and I just love it when they go and they see them. They had good ones in Stargate Universe. There was good blue people in Red Dwarf, and I love blue people. Anyway, that's Dorian Moldovar, my friend Simon Fisher Becker. Yeah, love blue people.
Andorians in Star Trek are blue.
And the Andorians, yes, with the little doodly bobs. Yeah, so like that's the fun thing about science fiction is when they go to the blue people. I sort of struggle with Claudia Grant sometimes, and her different take on Susan Foreman. But any Susan Foreman is good Susan Foreman, because there can never be too much Susan Foreman in this particular science fiction show. I love it. I think that it really was a perilous moment when Ian got thrown out of the window and Barbara got stabbed. I mean, like, these are precarious positions, and so that ended drama. That landed me in the story. And, the draggy bits, there are always a bit of draggy bits in anything I find, really anywhere. I'm just, you just kind of enjoy it, and you try and get to the next bit that's like really good, and then you're there, and that's science fiction to me. And Hartnell is hard to replace. I mean, Hartnell did a bang up job, but he was really hard to replace. I mean, even William Russell, who just loves William Hartnell with all of his heart. I know that Beef Dad's probably, warmed his heart greatly when he showed up, absolutely to a T, looking like Hartnell. Just amazing. So, like this kind of thing that happens when you present these things is it's hard. So Bradley may sound like Filch occasionally, but you just go on with that. So anyway, let's see. Let's go to our favorite moments, and I've given you some of my favorite things about this. So I'll just go around and we'll flip-flop the order. Susan, what's your favorite moments, please?
Actually, in a weird way, I mean, the two dramatic moments you talked about when he gets thrown off the cliff and she gets stabbed with a hand. I mean, how crazy is that? You got stabbed with a hand. But I think my favorite moment was when they finally realized that that planet would have been much better off had they not visited it. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, that's actually a historical lesson. Just about any. I mean, the question becomes for explorers. A lot of explorers, when they go to a new land, they bring disease with them, or they bring something. And in this case, that's exactly what happened. So I kind of like that they had the self-awareness to understand that they kind of screwed up. But they didn't do it on purpose. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Sit home sit on your hands and never do anything? I mean, that's pretty much what we're all facing literally today. But you have to use your brains, do a little. I don't think they could have done social distancing. Anyway. Sorry, a little too much noise. I think that was my actual favorite moment.
Okay, cool. Jake, your favorite moments, please.
I adored the bit in the TARDIS at the beginning when they're all talking with each other and bickering. That is so 60s Doctor Who, especially when the first Doctor turns around to Barbara and he goes, "I could teach trigonometry to an earthworm, but I won't." And I loved that. It made me giggle. And like what Susie was saying about the Barbara cliffhanger, this is my second time listening to this story, and it still took me by surprise. Can you imagine if something like that actually happened in 60s Doctor Who as one of the cliffhangers? My God, it shows that even companions can be put in peril. Literally got a spear thrown at her, poor woman. And even the sound it makes, was like, Christ, Jesus. I let out a gasp. My mum was like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Barbara's just had a spear thrown at her." It's just edge of the seat stuff. I don't personally think it dragged. I kind of think it had its. Did it drag? No. It sort of flowed nicely for me. But yeah, those are pretty much my favourite moments. Like when Ian was thrown out the window as well. A good old 60s romp, I think. And we got to think that if we didn't have these Bradley stuff, we're missing out on further First Doctor adventures. Yeah, they might not be utterly perfect, like someone like Jeffrey, a beef dad who's watched them from the beginning. It won't probably be the same for him as it is like someone who's newer to Big Finish and newer to Classic Who. It's getting a new light on things. For me personally, I love them. I think it's such a good idea to have David Bradley come back and rebirth an era with new stories, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And Lee, your favorite moments, please.
Well, yeah, the team in the TARDIS bickering and the First Doctor not listening to a word anybody's saying and he's doing what he wants. That was so heartful. The soft-spokenness of the blue people, you know, the way they just spoke so, you know, softly and peacefully is brilliant. I agree with you what you said about the voices of the companions. Sometimes they're okay, sometimes they're a bit off centre. I struggle really with Ian, Jamie Glover. I mean, I've said this before. I think his voice is just so like the actor Ray Brooks.
Yeah.
You know who Ray Brooks is. We all know the narrator of Mr. Ben and stuff like that, and his voice is just so similar. I mean, Jamie Glover got a very famous dad, of course, who appeared in Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
We won't talk about Scarrow from the Jaggeroth at the moment.
Julian!
But yeah, I think for me, when I said it sort of dragged at the beginning. Yes, for me it did personally. But if you look back at the old '60s stuff, some of it did anyway on the TV, and I think they've got it's the feel of the old series.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it a positive? Is it a negative? I don't know, but and I agree with it's reinventing the Hartnell era for this generation of audio listeners, and it's a good thing, even if you know sometimes it can be a bit off. But we're getting new stories, and you know you can't argue with that, can you? So no, you can't. And as I say, and as it said before, that Tim, I think it was Tim who said it, the way it leads into the next story, like the old days used to, which is good. So yeah, that's my favourite thoughts.
Okay, Beef Dad, your favorite moments, please.
Yeah, the opening scene in the TARDIS was brilliant. Yeah, always the first couple of episodes were quite slow, and they basically allowed you to build up the places that they were in your head. And that was one of the good things about it. Yeah, him going out of the window, crash. That was good. And yeah, when Barbara gets the spear, and then she's saved by the hand, which is removed from the girl. The girl removes the hand, and it stays there. That was just so clever. I love the concept of that. And then, of course, later on, that is the blood from Barbara is what is causing the start of fatality amongst these people who don't die, but they do now. And then the creation with the two things, the creation of a child, which they don't have children, and it creates a baby, a little child, and that for me was absolutely magical. And yeah, when they go back into the TARDIS, you get the basically it's repeat almost of the opening, and they go off and you start. They give you the clicks on what is the next thing. Yeah, which for me was absolutely wonderful. It was excellent piece of writing with purely the 60s in mind. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Beef Dad. And so let me see. We went. It was. So I guess who's left is Tim. And your favorite moments, please.
I have a question. Isn't it in the Sarah Jane Adventures they mentioned that Ian Barber never aged?
Yep.
Well, I think they missed a trick then, because when Ian fell out the window, they should have repaired him somehow with the same manner they repaired Barber. That would explain that in the future, because they would have become immortal in a way. But I'm not one of those fans that runs around trying to make answers for every little detail ever and get in arguments about what's canon and not, because that's just retarded. Sorry. But one thing I was going to say though also is that about the argument, I agree with Jake a lot on that, because I think the idea that they borrowed this cast from that TV movie from the 50th anniversary, which was years ago now, and they made it into something at Big Finish, and it's an alternative First Doctor kind of thing in a way, because they do still make First Doctor stories, Companion Chronicles and Early Adventures, which are good, but it's a different format. I think they wanted to try something with a full cast, and this gave them the opportunity to recast without any controversy, because they'd already been seen on television in these roles. Because if they tomorrow, they quietly recast the whole Third Doctor era in a way too, everybody except for Joe and Mike and Benton, because they're the only ones left. They were clever enough to use what's his name? Sorry.
Treelor?
Yeah, no. The other one. I forget. He does somebody work for them.
Coolshaw.
Yes, Coolshaw. Excuse
me. I didn't know which one where you were going.
My point is they were clever enough to do that quietly, where there's not a lot of outrage. They got him, they got Treelor, and I've heard talk that there's people are saying, why not just recast the Second Doctor's era then, And I feel like, no. It's not necessary. They pull it off as they do with Fraser Hines and everybody else that's still with them. And I think I wouldn't be adverse to it if they did at some point, but I think that this was an easy fix for them to create First Doctor full cast adventure stories with a cast that everybody has seen on TV in that one special, and it works. I think. It's not gonna be perfect, but I think they do a pretty good job with it. And I think Jake made a good point that there's newer fans like himself, or younger fans like himself that weren't around for all that, back in the day and didn't see it back in the day. And I think Lee, you made a really good point too, that the TV episodes were a bit slow sometimes. At least they stick to 4 parts. If they ever get around to doing 6-part epics or something, then we'll really be here all day. I'm just saying, it's like at least they're keeping it to 4. They're keeping it brief, and that's a good thing.
That's just the normal thing. And I agree with Tim about the recast of the Third Doctor as well. That was not sneaky. It was really, really sort of a long-term plan that works. And I really I'm pleased with full cast audios, but I like the Companion Chronicles too. Sorry. What am I going to do? Just a moment. Yeah, I know. The TARDIS goes off. It's just my phone. That's the love I have for the characters isn't diminished by other people playing them too much. I do love Carol Anford, though. I'm really glad that that she and William Russell are together for this Susan's War thing that's coming out soon. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's just a little excitement on my part, but yay! Okay, no, one more. It's gonna be so great. Anyway, I am a little bonkers. It's true, but yeah, I would I'd encourage you guys to get this. This is the second First Doctor's adventure set, and go ahead and get this box set. That would be great. My Blue People affection is well founded in this one. It's great. And the fact that the one blue person had taken Barbara's blood and was killing her people was just amazing. It was scary. It was like a murder mystery, like somebody was said earlier. Who said that? Yeah. I think it was Beef Dad, but maybe it was Tim. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure. But it was a good mystery, and they did discover who it was, and then they grew a child, and then the child cried, and that was really amazing. Like that whole interaction. It's about relationships, don't you know? The only thing is that Barbara and Ian weren't together long enough to do any sort of relating, so to speak. I love those moments too. But anyway, that's just because I totally ship them. Anyway, so let's go to let's open the floor. Is there anybody else who has anything else to say?
I do.
Okay, go for it.
I think the childish aspect of these aliens makes them really creepy. The way they're like, oh, what do you mean? And stuff like that. The innocence makes them incredibly creepy, but not to the point where you don't really trust them. They don't know what they're doing. It's all new to them, and it all sort of blows back in their face because they want to be like other people. It's also, I kind of see it as a story about fitting in as well as relationship, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I like the two aliens that they were lesbians together. I like that. I thought that was a nice aspect. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Anybody else? Beef Dad, you're muted.
When Ian and Barbara are both treated with the Ashtallah cells, the doctor suspects that they could never age, which could possibly explain.
That's what I said, but I don't think Ian was treated, was he?
No. Well, yes. Yeah, I think he was.
I thought it was just Barbara.
Yeah,
it was just Barbara.
I think it was a little...
That's what I assumed. I mean, when we were talking about it, I thought, well, yeah, if Ian had, after his fall, had been treated by them, then perhaps that would explain that later. Because Sarah Jane mentions that they never aged, but I guess that they missed a trick, or they don't. It all doesn't have to add up in one box.
Yeah, and I loved it when they mentioned meeting the Daleks and the Sensorites. Susan and the Doctor, they talk about stuff that happened quite recently. It's just sort of little references that they make.
Easter eggs.
It all fits into
Christmas
the big massive puzzle.
Yeah, and it's when Ian mentions the Doctor needing to find Mercury, all these little things that go back to the very very early ones. It was quite fun.
All right, so why don't you give your final say and score then? Oh,
me?
Would you like to? Do you have something to say, Susan?
Yes, I do, Susan.
All right, by all means, please.
Okay. Well, I thought it was interesting, given the most recent season of Doctor Who, we had the fingers that came off, that disgusting fingers coming off thing. I was wondering if it was the same writer. The hand, all the these people. No, different writers. Yeah.
No, John Dorney's just a Big Finish writer. He's never written for the show.
Oh,
unfortunately, he should, but hey ho.
Agreed. It's weird because I just never I'd never heard of people taking off limbs for a particular purpose before, so that was kind of new. The other one, I wonder if this episode could have been even made in the 60s because of the long talk about procreation and how they were going to make children, and talking about how children are made and blah 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 blah. And I thought, well, I'm not so sure if the 60s would have allowed that to air. They might have taken that part out somehow and fluffed it off and made it a little less obvious. But now, I mean, of course, today we say, fuck it, it doesn't matter. So it's just something that it's just a different cultural thing. I also noticed there was a reference, Jake lent me the Donna Noble set, and in the stories there was also a current reference that wasn't around when she made her Doctor Who too. So it's interesting how current times are influencing these stories that are meant to be in the past.
Yeah, bridging the gaps between stories.
Yeah. So anyway, that was really all I wanted to say about that. Those are my two observations.
Okay.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
The 60s invented sex.
Yes, but they didn't talk about it on television.
It was the swinging 60s, you know.
Oh my God.
The Brady Bunch, right? The Brady Bunch.
Oh no.
You know,
In British TV, it was Monty Python and compulsory sex education in class.
oh well, okay, fine. We were more Puritan on this side of the pond. So. But my fun didn't happen until the 70s. We're talking 60s.
There was plenty. Anyway. I just would like to know what your final say and score would be there, Susan, then.
I'd say an 8.
Cool.
Like I said, for me, the pacing was just a little too slow to keep my interest to have a re-listen, but the story was really interesting. It had some fun moments in it, like the beginning of Carter's conversation, which was kind of funny when he sort of referred to her as an earthworm, I think that was. But yeah, I think about an 8. It was enjoyable. It was not, by any means, it was not my favorite audio story I've ever heard.
Sorry, doesn't have to be. All right, Beef Dad, what's your final say and score?
Well, as I've said, I really enjoyed this for the comparison to the actual 60s and the way it was written and the way they did it, to have brought the 60s into the 2010s, 2020s. Yeah, it's extraordinary. Yeah, as I said earlier, the only thing that really got me as an anti was when David Bradley had his moments where he sounded like Argus Filch rather than the First Doctor. So it gets a 9.5 from me.
Oh wow! All right, and Jake, since you're on mic, what's your?
I really enjoyed this one. Lovely 60s feel. So I'll be throwing 9 spears at Barbara.
Oh dear.
Yes.
All right, Texas, what's your final say and score?
I really didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was very good. I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Nice. And Lee, over with the kitty, what's your final say and score?
Oh dear, I'm going to be the bad one here, aren't I? I'm giving it a 7.5.
That's not a bad score.
It's not bad. It's because I've heard other stories in the box sets. There are far superior ones, but this is a 7.5.
All right, that's cool. I'll give it an 8 point. No, I'll give it a 9 because of Susan. Because anything with Susan in it's going to get a really good score for me because she is perfect, and there can never be too much Susan Foreman. Anyway,
What if it was Susan and the Brigadier? I mean, you'd just fall over dead.
Yep, I would. That would be too much good stuff. I would not have a heart that would survive that moment. But the cool thing about this is that it not only had Susan, it had Barbara, it had Ian. They were separate though. And the first Doctor met a blue person, which was always good because I love blue people in science fiction. And let's just continue on. And can we do another one of these, or what's your? Okay, Lee. What have we got planned?
We talked about this last time.
I understand, but what have we got planned?
We haven't arranged it yet, but we're not doing. We'll miss one out. We'll do a Doctor Who after that.
All right, that's fine. That's great. So in a month we'll do another one of these, eh?
Yeah, in a month we're doing the follow-up to this story.
All right, that's great.
Barbarians and the Samurai.
All right.
We're doing Planet of Giants that month.
Okay, so
is there another one in 2 weeks?
So we have another one to go in 2 weeks, but we haven't decided what it is. We will decide once the recording is stopped, and you guys won't know. So just tune in, okay? And this weekend we are reviewing Batman versus Superman in Apocalypse and something else. What's the other one called?
Public Enemy.
Oh, okay. And so those two things, and we're continuing on to review Picard because it's Picard. Anyway, and let's agree that this weekend will be fun, and you should tune into all those podcasts and share these widely as the universe, as far away as blue people are from us, and also hit the bell, ding, 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 and hit the subscribe button. Once you hit the subscribe button, you can hit the bell, because if you hit the bell, it doesn't really do anything until you hit the subscribe button. So subscribe to our channel, because we are cool and we have lots of good stuff going on. And also, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, please. We need all the thumbs up so we can get, and also comment below, what you think of the recasting of things, what you think of slotting in a whole bunch of other doctors before William Hartnell and or David Bradley's Doctor, and also comment whether or not you like blue people, and what you think about blue people that are immortal blue people. Are they dangerous?
Blue people.
Are they the best kind of friends to make, or are they dangerous? Anyway, love the blue people. Actually, I thought that the Doctor should be blue at some point, but that's just my opinion, in my humble opinion. And so, with that, and all the Susan Foreman that you can possibly shake a stick at, thank you for watching our podcast.